Welcome to New Jersey Horror Con. We have the amazing Craig Sheffer with us. Thank you so much for taking the time, my man.
And the amazing Piggy, my
and
dog.
the amazing Piggy, yes. tell us the story of Piggy real quick. How old is Piggy?
Piggy is 13 or 12. I can't remember.
Oh my God,
But I got her from my daughter. Somebody was selling dogs out of the back of their trunk in California, and she was the one at the bottom, and they were all crawling over, and she was just huddled at the bottom. So, I got her, and my daughter was in the car. So of course, I got it for my daughter, and then about 6 years ago, come on up.
Aww.
And then my daughter went off into the world and college and all that stuff, and I moved back to Pennsylvania to take care of some sick family members, where I've been for about 6 years, actually. I've been doing that, and so I brought her with me, and now she thinks I'm her husband. So. Yeah.
Wow, so in addition to accomplished actor, you're also a dog saver and humanitarian.
I am somewhat of a dog saver and humanitarian, actually.
I believe that. So we'll get started, kind of go back to the beginning if we could. Things got started for you when you moved to New York in the early 80s, right?
Yes.
So what was the New York scene like in those days, and do you think that was a crucial experience for you early on in your career?
New York was like crazy back then, It wasn't. Now it's, I guess, Giuliani cleaned it all up, but at the time, it was still. What was cool about it was still neighborhoods. You had your Irish neighborhood, your Italian neighborhoods, and all that stuff. Now, they bought up all those buildings, and I mean, my first apartment in New York, I lived with 5 other busboys I worked at. We lived in a studio, and we literally just. The whole apartment was just mattresses except our kitchenette, and you'd just fall wherever you did, and go to sleep. And New York was, it was really cool. I actually had some really interesting encounters early on. My second day in New York, I lived in the YMCA for the first year when I could afford it, which was, I think, $11 a night. And I lived in YMCA's, but at the time, Grand Central Station and Penn Station were being redone. So when I couldn't afford the YMCA, I would go down, and it was warm, because you'd go down below the escalators that they were redoing, and there were literally 50, 60 people down there.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I had my one suitcase and put on a big winter coat and just sleep down there. But my second day there, it was really weird, because I went into this bar that was about 4 blocks from the YMCA, and it was called Un, Deux, Trois, 1, 2, 3 in French. And John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd were in there. And I'd, of course, been watching Saturday Night Live since I was like 15. I think it came on in 75, which is when I was 15. And I saw them in there, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I could only afford 1 beer, but I went up and I went, I'm an actor. I'm going to be an actor. I just came here. And they were like, good for you. Get the fuck out. They weren't very nice.
Wow, that's crazy.
But it was crazy that I had that experience. And then my very first job was at it was kind of a mafia restaurant called Jimmy Weston's. And there I was a cashier in the back, but Frank Sinatra came in every Friday with his wife Barbara, and the owner, I said, can I get his autograph? And I was keeping a journal at the time of my new life, and I got Frank Sinatra's autograph in that journal. It was pretty cool.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So I had these like weird little encounters, which I look back on it now and I think maybe there was some kind of, maybe I had a little destiny there, you know what I mean?
Could be.
Just running into people, because I don't think that's ever happened later in life,
Wow, that's funny. You would think it would happen more after your career started,
You would, yeah.
You would think. So one thing I'm curious about is how were you kind of able to go from that stage to having a 3-picture deal at Paramount so early in your career?
Well, not at that first year for me was just survival, and then I learned from other people that I was working with as busboys, other people that were trying to get into the film business. I was like, well, okay, so how do you get an agent? How do you do this? And they told me I wanted to, most people start in commercials, So the top commercial agent was a J. Michael Bloom agency. And I got my headshots done because people, you just learn through other people who are trying to do the same thing you are. And I sent out my first headshot to the top commercial agent, and 3 days later they called me, I went in, and they signed me, which I don't know why they signed me because I had no idea how to do a commercial, but they put me in a commercial class because I guess they liked the way I looked at the time. And I think it was only a month before I got my first national commercial, and over the next 6 months I got 4 national commercials. At that time, they paid a lot of money. My very first commercial was, I got sent to the Caribbean. This is how long ago it was. You remember the Blue Lagoon? Chris Atkins and Brooke Shields?
Yeah.
So it was like 79. Well, it was a Orange Crush soda commercial, and it was a takeoff of the Blue Lagoon. But it was a five commercial deal, so we were shooting 5 commercials, and they sent me to the Virgin Islands for 2 weeks. I was in the Virgin Islands, shooting a commercial, which is still my favorite place in the world. I go there, but it was like, very lucky. And then I got 3 more commercials over that period of time. Meanwhile, I had been doing theater in New York while I was trying to get commercials. The first commercial allowed me to not work, believe it or not. I made, I think it was like $30,000 off those commercials because they were national commercials. I don't think that happens now. I think everything's a buyout or whatever, but so I started doing theater, and the first one was the basement of a church. I played Romeo. I did Romeo and Juliet, and then I got a off Broadway. So it's not even off Broadway. It was a triple off Broadway play, and then I tried out for a off Broadway play and it wasn't even the main role, but it was a small role. However, that director from that play ended up getting the director job in a play called Torch Song Trilogy. It was the first big gay play on Broadway. It was the first, nobody would make a play about gay people in those days. This is 1982. Wow. And so it was the first gay play off Broadway, and the director called me in for an audition up against 250 other guys. Harvey Fierstein, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he was the writer and the star of the play. And I actually freaking got the role, which was shocking to me because I had done about 4 plays at that point and a couple commercials. The play ends up being Play of the Year. I'm Newcomer of the Year. And at the time, Paramount Pictures was making Outsiders, had just come out a year before. Emilio Estevez bought the rights to S.E. Hinton's book.
That was then.
This is now. Thank you. I was going to forget that. And they were in New York auditioning actors, and because of my Broadway cred, my new Broadway cred, they brought me in for a screen test, and I got the role, the leading role in that movie. And then Paramount saw the screen test and gave me a 3-picture deal. So 3 years, I went from being, just a guy living in Pennsylvania who I was playing football at East Stroudsburg University and blew my knee out, and the only other thing I was good at was pretending. And so I gave that a shot and had a lot of luck, a lot of fortuitous circumstances that I feel like brought me to the place where I got a Hollywood picture deal, and I don't even think they do.
Yeah, I don't think they do that
Three
anymore
picture
either.
deals,
No.
that stuff doesn't happen.
Especially not if you're a young up and comer. Maybe they would give super megastars now a 3-picture deal, but that's
Well, they don't want 3-picture deals because they basically paid me not much for each movie, so that's why they gave it to me. But of course, at that time, it was like a big deal.
Oh, huge deal, yeah.
I think I made 40,000, 50,000, 60,000.
Wow.
Which, to me, I was rich,
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how that happened.
So speaking of That Was Then, This Is Now, I've heard you talk about that role and describe it as one of your favorites from your early films and stuff. And I was just wondering, what was it about that particular character that appealed to you?
Well, that character. The funny thing about the character was it's the way I grew up. I grew up in a. It was in our small town, in the city. It was gangs. It was white gangs, which is really interesting. So I was in the Windsor Park Boys. We had all these other gangs, and it was all neighborhood gangs. So I grew up fighting, and it was a turf thing. You could go through somebody else's turf, and so it was very much kind of the way I grew up.
Wow.
And it was pretty easy for me to assimilate that.
Wow.
That world.
Well, that's incredible. So not long after that, you made a movie called Fire with Fire.
Yeah.
And worked with an actor named J.J. Cohen.
What an asshole.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, my God, I can't tell you.
Boy, too bad that guy isn't around.
Yeah,
Thank God.
Thank
God
God.
we don't have to deal with J.J. Cohen.
No,
Yeah,
thank
I know,
God.
right? What a J.O. J.J. the J.O.
He tortured me every day on
He
set.
tortured you every day?
Yeah, he did.
He hounded you? Any memories of that film? And, I was curious what it was like to be in such an epic, tortured romance. Oh, my God. What, the J.J.?
I heard, the funny thing is I came out at the wrong time.
I thought you fucking retired.
No. I came out at the wrong time. I heard Harvey Firestein, and I thought you said Fire with Fire, and I came out.
Oh.
And he went like this.
No, I was just
back
like,
in.
no, not like that. I was like, 1 sec, 2 seconds.
How you doing, baby?
Love this guy.
Yes.
I'm just going to say the same thing. You stole my line.
All right.
We had tons of fun.
We had tons of fun.
Awesome.
I don't know if you can tell, but Chef and I actually have a similar workout regimen. We both do about 1,000 crunches a day. I do Nestle's, and
We spent an incredible summer together in 1985 in Vancouver.
yeah, that was a
Oh.
great year. That was the year Back to the Future came out.
Yep.
And I was in that, by the way. And, a little independent film. Maybe you've heard of it? Okay.
Small little.
Wow, look at all those people. Jesus, thank you for all coming up. My God, it's fantastic. What's that, about 97, 98 people?
99 and change.
Close?
Yeah, close.
Hundreds.
Full house, full house.
That's
The
right.
important people are here. That's what I know.
That's right. The real people.
Yeah, we had a great time. Whitewater rafting.
Yeah.
You guys ever been whitewater rafting?
A
Have
little,
you?
a little pre-river runs through it. Little career
Yeah,
foreshadowing.
yeah.
That was The rafts were rubber in that one. In the one our experience with D.B. Sweeney, Virginia Madsen, we all.
D.B. Sweeney, Virginia Madsen. It was after Fire with Fire. Let me tell you just something about what a great actor I think Chef is. I'm just going to talk about you for a second. One of the reasons why Chef and I have always had a certain respect for one another is because we took this craft very seriously. And I had done this scene with him in the rehearsal where, did you guys ever see Fire with Fire? No? Okay, great.
I know we got some One Tree Hill fans over
Anyone
there.
from Montreal? No? Okay. Oh, did you see it? We shot in Canada. Well, if you didn't see it, go see it. And I'm not giving your money back if you don't like it, by the way. But we were up there, and there's a scene where we're in a detention center, and he's the hunk, and I'm his best friend in the detention center, and I help him escape. And there's a scene where I give him the map, and he goes, well, basically, are you coming with? And I said, no, you guys go. I only have a little bit of time left. I'm going to serve out my time. And when I auditioned for this thing, I was bawling crying. And when we did 4 or 5 rehearsals, I was bawling crying. But I could not get there when we actually were doing the scene. I was just cried out. So I said, do you remember this?
No.
So I said, Chef, slap my face. And he's like, no, man.
Now I remember it.
I can't do that. I can't do that, man. I was like, please, man, slap my face. And he's like, no, man, I don't want to do that. And there was just such love. But anyway, he wound up doing it. And we did the scene. And it's an okay scene. But when you trust each other and you're working with somebody, I mean, he's one of the people that I would do anything with this guy again. I would do a play. I would do anything with him. Right now I play a lot of tournament poker. Do you play tournament poker at all?
I've never played poker in my life.
Okay, good. Well, let's play that then. High stakes, high stakes. But I just always thought he was a really incredibly talented guy. And then you went and did The River Runs Through It, which was awesome to me. And then he did what was it, like A Christmas Carol? The staging that I said to you last night?
Play, yeah.
So he did a reading of a play, and it was on like PBS or something, and it was brilliant. I mean, the way he acted this thing out, I just have so much respect for this guy. I love this guy. And I posted pictures yesterday of us kissing, not on the lips. Not that we're above that, but it's just we just have a lot of love. And I really love this guy, and I'm glad you guys are all here to support him because he's really awesome. Oh, yeah. He's really awesome.
He's awesome too, and I'm so happy to see him.
Feel free to keep the applause
So
going
happy.
when he says he's awesome too.
Oh yeah.
Thank you very much.
Very cool. So, so you guys are, two hot young actors in the '80s. What, are there any great party stories, or maybe like your craziest audition, something that
We talked about not talking about it.
Okay,
actually.
okay. Nothing-
We
nothing
did
too-
talk about not talking about those.
All right.
So no drug stories, though.
No drug stories.
No.
Well,
I mean, if we had done drugs to begin with, we would not have shared those stories.
well, no drug stories
No.
unless
I'm 22 years sober, by the way.
unless somebody here has drugs. No?
Yes.
No. Okay. No drug stories, guys.
Unless you're gonna share.
So we're gonna kind of bounce around a little bit if we could, because I know there's a One Tree Hill fan in the audience here. It's funny. I love teen soaps, and I had not seen One Tree Hill because I think I was a little older than like I was out of high school when it started. But getting ready for this panel, I'm like, I'm gonna watch a little One Tree Hill. Fucking damn it! I watched 3 seasons of that show. Like I couldn't watch my other shit getting ready for to do notes and stuff. So I was curious what it was like to play such a wholesome character. You've been kind of known for playing a little darker, a little edgier characters by that point.
You know what's funny? When I was younger, I don't know how you feel about this, but when you're young, you want to play you want to go to the dark places because you grew up on Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, and all the
De Niro, right?
De Niro, Pacino, all the guys that
Yep.
you grew up watching those guys do those dark turns and amazing roles, and I was always drawn. Well, I played a lot of wholesome characters also early on. They were maybe in dark circumstances, but they were wholesome. So I think in my early 30s, especially after River Runs Through It, I really wanted to play dark guys because that guy was so wholesome. And but I had my daughter when I was 33, and now I actually prefer to be the guy that I am, like with my daughter and all her friends, which is a mentor. And so when One Tree Hill came along, it was kind of a natural progression for me, and I really liked the character. The original One Tree Hill was really about the family. It was about the 2 boys, the 2 brothers. Me and Paul Johansson played the other character, and then the 2 sons and the mother that was split between them. It was kind of a Cain and Abel thing. Within 6 weeks of filming, the teenagers were what hit the internet, and people liked all the teenage dynamics, and we basically got phased out, went from our story to the teen story, which was cool, but I really liked playing that character. It felt good and right, and I got killed off in season 3 because
when I stopped watching.
What happened was my daughter, I brought her down and homeschooled her for the first 2 years, and then she was ready to go to middle school, and I was not comfortable not
being there.
And Wilmington, it shot on the East Coast, and so that's how that story progressed. I left the show. I asked them to try to work my stuff so that I could come back every 2 weeks, and it really didn't work out. So, and then they came up with the idea of killing me off, which
yeah, you can make plenty of time to take care of your daughter now. We have a better idea.
Oh my
enjoy your daughter, pal. You're going to be seeing her a lot. So yeah,
very cool.
But I really like that character, and I like playing characters like that now. I've not worked for about the last 5 years. I've been taking care of family. I've been back in Pennsylvania. My mom and brother both were sick, and my brother just passed 2 weeks ago, which was the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life. And now I'm going back to LA and going to see if anybody still thinks I'm interesting enough to get a job.
Well, yeah, so yeah. And then, for both you guys, have you noticed any, differences between, you guys have done such different types of work. Can you spot your fans from, this is a Back to the Future fan, this is some kind of Wonderful fan, this is a One Tree Hill fan? Is the interaction different between film and TV fans, or is it, is everything just kind of?
Well, I think when you're film, like,
I don't have any fans, just for the record, just so you're aware.
No,
you got a fan up here, my man.
I have 2, and they're 1 and 2, and that's it.
You're in good company.
Well, I mean, I've been in a lot of movies, but I've never been in a Back to the Future type movies.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I actually have a lot of fans, and I was actually in all 3 of the Back to the Futures, and it's been phenomenal to be a part of that whole thing. I was the original choice for Biff. Michael J. Fox was the first choice to play Marty McFly, and he was doing a TV series called Family Ties at the time, and the producers wouldn't let him out of the contract. So they hired Eric Stoltz. I went back for this thing like 8 times, and Eric Stoltz and I are about the same height. So it went down to 2 people, and Universal said I wasn't tall enough, and the other guy, who was too old, and the other guy was Tim Robbins. So neither one of us got the part. And they cast Tom Wilson, and then after a month and a half of shooting, they fired the guy you don't like, Eric Stoltz, and they brought in Michael J. Fox. And at the end of the DVD commentary, Bob Gale says, had Michael J. Fox been cast originally as Marty McFly, J.J. Cohen would have been Biff. Yeah. And funny thing is, I was the 3rd choice. I don't know if I ever told you this. It was after Fire with Fire. I was the 3rd choice for Goose in Top Gun.
Wow.
Oh.
And actually, their first choice turned it down. It was the ugly guy. What's his name? Nicolas Cage.
What?
And,
to play Goose?
Nicolas Cage was going to be Goose?
He was going to be Goose, and he turned it down.
That's insane.
And then they gave it to Anthony Edwards.
Wow.
And he took it, and then I was the 3rd choice. I was the only no-name at that time. I had just finished Fire with Fire.
Fire with Fire, wow.
And the funny thing is about dreaming, because we're still dreamers. I feel like I'm still a dreamer, just for a better life and a better world, and just more unity and less political division and all that shit. By the way, go like my fan page, J.J. Cohen, J. Perry Cohen. I don't do any political shit. If you do any political shit, you don't need to come. I don't care about either side, really. I'm totally neutral. I love it all. But what was the point? I did. Okay, I did do a lot of drugs in the '80s. But what was what was the point? I was up for something. Where's my
Top Gun,
assistant?
Top Gun.
Top Gun. Okay. So there was another film called. I'm kind of like more known for the things I didn't get than the things I did get. I was up for this TV series called You Again, Home to Roost. Jack Klugman was. I was telling you about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Jack Klugman was the father, and I was the son, and we both kind of have these dog faces. And they paid me an NBC holding contract. They paid me $2,500 to stay home and not audition for anything. And I actually took myself out of the industry to study after we did Fire with Fire because of that scene. And I was like, I didn't have a technique. I had some talent, and I had worked. I had worked in a bunch of stuff, but I was like, I don't have a specific way to call upon to get to the emotion, to be effective with the scene. I wanted to win Academy Awards. That was my thing. That's what we talked about, like all the time. It wasn't just about getting work. Now, at 54, 50, it's all about just getting work. And if we get the award, great. But when I did that part, I couldn't have been happier. And anyway, they gave the part to John Stamos. And I made $11,000 for not getting the role. But I would have given it back to him. I remember saying that to my agent when they said, you didn't get the part. I was like, give him back the money. I don't want the $11,000. The agent, of course, was like, no. Let's not give him back the money because he's getting 10%.
Oh, yeah.
But they gave it to John Stamos. And the show was horrible. And I love John Stamos. John used to come into my parents' restaurant all the time. He was a good guy. You know John? I don't. He's really a great guy. And he was a drummer, and I was a drummer. And he's actually really a great guy. We used to see each other at parties, and he came into my parents' restaurant, Maryland Crab House. Did you ever come to my parents' restaurant? My parents owned a East Coast seafood house called Maryland Crab House in California. And he used to come in all the time, and he really liked...
Where was that?
25th and Pico.
Oh, okay.
And one in Santa Monica, and then we had another one in Encino.
I did go there. I think you
Did, right?
told me to go there. Yeah, because I grew up with Maryland Crab. I went to Ocean City, Maryland every year for
We went to Cape May, New
vacation.
Jersey. That's what we did from Maryland.
Oh,
Cape
well,
May
we would go to Cape May and
and
take the
Wildwood.
boat. You know that big ship that would go to? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
over.
yeah,
And then Wildwood, New Jersey, and we would get subs. And when I went to White House subs, I got a ham and cheese the other night. Okay, it wasn't just a ham and cheese; it was a steak and cheese also. But it was delicious. It was absolutely delicious. And you remember the days when we would get food and take it back to the room?
Yeah.
And we wouldn't leave the room? I do that now. I still do that. I love it. Only now I have Netflix instead of weed.
Oh, man. So, JJ, you were talking about some, being known for some of the stuff that you didn't get, but you're also known for the things, obviously, that you did. But I was wondering, Craig, if you had anything to riff on that, because I know you actually turned down some kind of high-profile stuff. Is that something you want to talk about? If not, totally cool.
Well, yeah.
I turned down Platoon, by the way.
You did what?
I turned down Platoon.
Oliver Stone?
There was a role.
Turned down what?
Platoon. The role that Kevin Dillon played in Platoon.
What?
I turned that down. I turned down one of the leads in River's Edge. I turned down one of the roles in Lost Boys.
Wait,
and this is and this.
You're not the only one on the stage.
This is
who
a
turned
horror
down Lost
convention.
Boys.
You turned down Lost Boys?
Yeah, Lost Boys. I was the Jason Patrick role.
Oh, I was for the.
I know.
I was for one of the other little vampire guys. The reason why was because, again, I just, when you work with somebody who really takes the craft seriously, my reasoning was vampires don't exist. They're full of shit. How can I play this? Blah, blah, blah.
I actually said that to Joel Schumacher.
Did you?
I said, my agent forced me to go meet him, and he was such a nice guy, and I was such a.
He is a sweet guy.
He's a really sweet guy, and I was a young, arrogant actor who was getting a lot of attention. And, arrogant, no, but like I said, we wanted to do great
you were
stuff.
Proud. You
and
were
at
proud.
the time, a vampire movie I was like,
Right. Right.
I don't want to be in a vampire movie,
Yeah, that's how I felt.
Huh? Right. Well, that was about 5 years later.
Yeah,
Right.
that was 5
I
years
learned my
later when the
lesson.
car payment came due. And we're like, vampires,
I learned my lesson when it
maybe.
came out and made $1 million, and Jason Patrick became a bigger star than I was. So I was like, okay.
I think I was up for the Kiefer Sutherland role in that, actually. and the thing about
Let's make it now.
what was the one with Keanu Reeves and the one I just meant, River's
River's
Edge.
Right. Oh,
So the
that's a great
script,
movie.
and we were big on this shit. The script, she gets killed, right? Somebody gets murdered in that movie, the girlfriend, and the guy at the end, they say, "Why did you kill her?" And he goes, "'Cause she was talking shit." And I just thought, what a dumb reason. I mean, trust me, that's plenty good reason to kill people. But not in a movie, and not like the whole premise of the movie and whatever. And I just thought, so I just wasn't digging that
Yeah,
film.
that's a pretty fair critique of the film, actually.
Is it?
I think so, because I always like that it's a darker teen movie. It's, like these characters, a lot of the kids are like kind of idiots. Like you see the guy like, being interviewed on the news about the dead girl, and he's like, oh yeah, like, she was in my class. Like, I play guitar also.
Yeah,
and he's like
yeah.
really trying
The
to
script
promote.
was just
And,
kinda
like,
weird.
People like, teachers at a school that had a similar thing happen, it was based on, said like, yeah, they nailed the kid characters right.
Yeah.
But you're right, that premise of like, who's talking shit, that's kind of dumb
And-
if the whole movie hinges on that murder.
And I didn't feel like I had the depth to play the role in Platoon. And I probably did, but I didn't.
I think you
I
did.
was very, very self-critical at the time, and again, we, Chef and I were the type of people that would be like, let's do another take, we can do it better, and afterwards they're like, come on, man, we got to go, and so I just, I was very self-critical. I wanted to do great work. I remember when I did 976 Evil, same thing. There's a scene in it.
What was it?
976 Evil, Robert Englund's directorial debut.
Okay.
As a director. And the way it was scripted was that I get thrown off the building, and I thought, okay, cool. What I don't want to do is I don't want to die like they typically die in horror movies. And I got thrown off a building, so I thought, well, that's a good way to die. And then once I got the part, it turns out they cut off my arm and then blood spurting out, and I was like, oh, shit, this is not what I wanted. And I'm being chased around by Stephen Jeffries, who's a monster. Who comes up to like here on me, and you can just kind of kick that guy and he'll fall over, and so he he's chasing me and he's a monster, and so it's kind of gay, but I kind of hated it, what it became, but I was professional and I had signed to do the movie, and so I did it, but that was it was a great here was the story. The story was, so in the scene when I had to get my arm cut off. I got the arm cut off, and I couldn't get to that emotional state, right? Ah! And so I remember, again, being very critical, and they were like, okay, we're going to break for dinner. And I was like, I don't even deserve to eat. I'll be in my room if you need me. I'm not eating. I don't deserve to eat. That was horrible what I did. Yeah, I was just very self-critical. Now, as you can see, I'm not that critical anymore. And is anybody getting hungry, by the way? Or is it just me? I'm working up an appetite. So now we're doing these shows, and these are a lot easier than any acting role, don't you think?
Yeah. One of the things I think is interesting about what you were saying about the script and the words you read, I found after the first 10 years, I kind of realized that it's really, you can have a very mediocre script, or what you view as a mediocre script, but what it really is the director. The director is, and I was kind of an asshole when I was young, because I was taught this in my acting when we were coming up. It was like method actors that don't listen to the director. You create the character and da 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 da. And as I got older, I looked at, because a lot of the directors wrote the scripts. Look at Lost Boys. It could have been just a terrible teenage vampire movie,
Right.
but it was directed really well.
Right.
He had a vision. And as I got older, I realized, you got to really look first at the director, I think even before the script, because there are scripts out there, and if you just read the words on the page, they can look wrong. They can look wrong or boring or sometimes violent, too violent or gross. But it's all how the director handles it and what his vision is for that piece.
Absolutely.
And as I got about 10 years into my career, I started realizing I'm just a color in a painting as an actor. I'm a color, and even if I'm the main color, if it's if the most of the painting's blue, but there's all these other pieces in it, and the director is the artist. I'm a paint in his. I am one of the colors in his painting, and I need to serve that. I need to serve that director's vision, right or wrong, and oftentimes I really did think they didn't know what the fuck they were doing, and I was right.
Yes,
and the movie didn't turn out good, but I can't try to. I got to follow that vision if I've taken that role, and trust that director. And if you have an established director and you've seen his other work, you can take. I can look at a script and go, well, I don't really relate to everything that's going on here, but I've seen what he's done with other stuff, so he must have a purpose and a vision for this piece.
Yeah, to speak to that point, that doesn't just apply in the entertainment industry. You can have a B product, a C product, and you got good management, and they'll sell that product. But if you get a C management with an A product, they'll run that product into the ground. And so, the majority of directors, just like the majority of actors, are not that great. And so to trust them, I did a film called Almost Famous. I don't know if any of you ever heard of that, right?
Ow.
So where the hell have you been for the last hour? We needed somebody applauding. So I was in Almost Famous, and best director I ever worked with, Cameron Crowe, hands down. And the reason why is because while they're setting up the lights, he's playing music booming through the boombox, and he's setting the tone. Now, when you're doing emotional memory, or you're doing emotional recall, or you're just preparing mentally for the scene before the scene, to have somebody put you in that state of mind, it just makes your scene so much easier. You're sad, the scene is a breakup scene. Whatever the dialogue is, it doesn't matter. You remember the dialogue by rote, and you work off the other person, and whatever happens, you work off him. He's shaking his head now, so I'm going to shake my head. And you're working directly off the other person, and it's moment to moment, whatever's happening. So the dialogue is just part of where you go to. Fuck you doesn't mean to fuck you, right? I hate you doesn't mean I hate you. I hate you doesn't mean I hate you, right? So it's not about the dialogue, it's about the emotional preparation under it and what's going on. If it's a breakup scene and we're breaking up, usually those don't end well, right? Anybody that's ever broken up knows they don't end well. So you have your dialogue, you know what's happening in the scene, and you're working off the other person. And it's a very difficult thing to do, and the better actors make it look really, really simple. I have to do a photo op, but he's one of those better actors. I appreciate you letting me be on this stage with you, brother. I fucking love you to death. I really do. I do too. You know that I do. But thank you very much. I love you too. Thank you so much for letting me be up here. See you guys later. Have a great time.
Love you, JJ. All right.
So we do probably have time for one last quick one. I am such a diehard fan, I have to ask about the program. I think my spirit animal is at least 10 to 15% Joe Kane, like drunk Joe Kane, not like the healthy Joe Kane at the end of the movie. But do you have any stories, anything funny to tell the fans about working on the program?
The great thing about the program for me was I actually played college football and at East Stroudsburg University. So when we did the movie, the team was called Eastern State University.
ESU, yeah.
So it was ESU, and it was the same colors as my college football team.
Oh, wow.
So
were you a quarterback?
I started as a quarterback. I was a quarterback in high school. We won the championship.
Get out.
I was recruited by West Point, didn't have the grades to get in, and about 4 weeks before I was supposed to go there, they basically said, because the coach was like, we'll get you in. I had like a 2.0 grade average, and you're supposed to have a 3.5, whatever. And my high school coach was a football star at East Stroudsburg University, which was a national championship Division II school.
Oh my God, wow.
So instead, suddenly, I'm going to East Stroudsburg University and blew my knee out my sophomore year when I switched to wide receiver.
It's like the Alvin Mack storyline from the program.
What's that?
It's like the Alvin Mack storyline.
Very
from the program.
much the Alvin Mack
Oh my
story.
God, yeah.
I love that guy. He was I don't know if I've seen him in anything, but he was such a.
He was amazing in so many different things.
Yeah.
He played Buster Douglas in a movie about Mike Tyson. He was in Summer School, the guy that goes to the bathroom.
That's
And then-
right.
He was
That's
in.
right, yeah.
He was in. He popped up all over the place.
He's also just an amazing guy. I liked his storyline in that.
Oh, yeah.
Related to it,
Oh
obviously.
yeah.
But so I got to do this movie, and we had 3 weeks of football camp. So I was in heaven, man. I just got to go out and playing with Division I. All the extras or the guys on the football team were Division I guys from the South Carolina Gamecocks. So here I was messing around with Division I players, but I still could throw the ball 65 yards at that point.
Whoa.
And like I had a big arm, and like they were like, "Wow, you're not just an actor," and you know.
You're like,
it
yes,
was,
I know.
it was very cool. And then James Caan came on the set and shook my hand, and literally, I'm like, what's going on here? He's squeezing my hand, and he starts doing this and talking to me about a river runs through it, and I'm like, what? And he literally squeezed my hand until I was down to his knee, and he goes, "I'm just letting you know who's in charge here."
Whoa.
But he was, yeah. He was all, he godfathered me, man.
Well, you know what you could have done though.
But
By the end of-
I mean, it was in good humor, but it was the strongest hands I've ever felt in my life.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. You know
Yeah.
what you should have done though? At one point when you're doing a take where you were forced to kiss Christy Swanson, how awful it must have been. But you
Yeah.
should have looked over at him and be like, I just want to let you know who's in charge. here."
Yeah, I should have done that.
You
Yeah,
should have done that for sure.
I was a little scared of him though.
That must have been yeah, I don't blame you after Iron Grip James Caan.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, we are just about out of time, guys. Be sure to stop by Craig's table, get some pictures, autographs. I know he has a million more stories to tell you guys. And yes, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it, and thank JJ wherever he is.